the less you care, the more they obsess. Power Tactics Explained. Introduction: The Paradox of Power. Imagine a scenario where the harder you chase something, be it love, respect, or influence, the further it slips away. Now picture the opposite. You step back, loosen your grip, and suddenly, that thing you wanted starts chasing you. This is the essence of a timeless principle. The less you care, the more they obsess. It's a psychological paradox that governs human interactions, from romantic relationships to professional negotiations and even casual friendships. Today, we're diving deep into this concept, unpacking the power tactics behind it, exploring why it works, and examining how it can be wielded effectively or misused dangerously. This isn't just about manipulation. It's about understanding human nature and navigating the world with confidence and clarity. This principle isn't new. It's been observed in ancient philosophy, modern psychology, and even pop culture. Whether it's the aloof hero in a movie who effortlessly wins hearts, or the business mogul who commands respect by seeming unbothered, the pattern holds true. But why? What makes detachment so magnetic? And how can you harness this dynamic without losing your authenticity or crossing ethical lines? Let's break it down, step by step, over the next 10,000 words as we explore the mechanics, applications, and deeper truths of this fascinating power tactic. Part 1. The psychology behind the principle. The scarcity effect. Why we want what's hard to get. At the core of the less you care, the more they obsess, lies a fundamental psychological principle: scarcity. Humans are wired to value what is rare, exclusive, or difficult to obtain. When you care less, when you project an air of independence or indifference, you signal that your attention, affection, or approval is scarce. This scarcity makes you more desirable because people crave what feels out of reach. Think about it. A limited edition sneaker is coveted because only a few exist. A person who seems emotionally unavailable or hard to impress becomes the human equivalent of that sneaker. Their validation feels like a prize, and the pursuit of that prize triggers a psychological chase. Studies in behavioral economics, like those by Robert Cialdini, show that scarcity increases perceived value. When you make yourself less available, you tap into this instinctual drive, prompting others to work harder to win you over. The fear of loss. A driving force closely tied to scarcity is the fear of loss, or what psychologists call loss aversion. People are more motivated to avoid losing something than to gain something new. When you care less, you create the impression that the other person could lose your interest or presence at any moment. This subtle threat of withdrawal ignites their desire to secure you, because the idea of losing you feels more painful than the effort required to keep you. This dynamic is especially potent in relationships. For example, when someone senses that their partner is pulling away, not dramatically, but just enough to seem less invested, they often respond by doubling down, trying to regain that connection. It's not always conscious, but it's a reflex rooted in our survival instincts. We cling to what we fear we might lose. The power of uncertainty. Another key ingredient is uncertainty. Humans are uncomfortable with ambiguity, and when you care less, you introduce a level of unpredictability into the equation. Are you interested or not? Will you stay or walk away? This uncertainty keeps others on their toes, making them think about you more, analyze your actions, and invest mental energy in figuring you out. Psychological research such as studies on intermittent reinforcement, supports this. When rewards, like attention or affection, are given inconsistently, they become more addictive. Slot machines operate on this principle. You don't know when you'll win, so you keep playing. Similarly, when you're selectively engaged, giving attention sparingly, you create a cycle where others crave your next move, obsessing over when and how you'll respond. Ego and validation. The need to win. Finally, let's talk about the ego. When you care less, you challenge someone's sense of self-worth. If they're used to being admired or pursued, your indifference can feel like a personal affront. They might think, why isn't this person fawning over me? Don't they see how great I am? This sparks a need to prove themselves, to win your approval, because their ego demands it. This is why the principle often works best on those with a strong sense of pride or competitiveness. Your detachment becomes a puzzle they're determined to solve, a trophy they're compelled to claim. By not feeding their ego directly, you make them work for it, and that effort fuels their obsession. Part 2. How it works in real-life romantic relationships. The push-pull dynamic. Let's start with one of the most common arenas for this principle, romance. We've all seen it, whether in our own lives or in others. The person who's always available, always texting back immediately, always eager to please, often gets taken for granted. Meanwhile, the one who's a bit elusive, busy with their own life, slow to respond, not overly invested, tends to hold the upper hand. This isn't about playing games, though it can devolve into that. It's about maintaining your own center. When you're too focused on someone else, you lose your own gravitational pull. By caring less, not in a cold or cruel way, but by prioritizing your own goals, hobbies, and independence, you project strength and self-sufficiency. This makes you more attractive because humans are drawn to those who seem complete on their own. For example, consider two people dating. Person A is always planning elaborate dates, checking in constantly, and molding their schedule around Person B. Person B, on the other hand, has their own passions, doesn't always reply right away, and occasionally cancels plans to focus on themselves. Who's likely to hold more sway? Person B, because their detachment signals confidence and value. Person A's eagerness, while sweet, can come off as neediness, which diminishes their allure. Friendships, setting boundaries, and earning respect. The principle isn't limited to romance, it applies to friendships too. Ever notice how the friend who's always available, always saying yes, often gets overlooked or undervalued? Compare that to the friend who's selective about their time, who has clear boundaries and isn't afraid to say no. The latter often commands more respect and attention. By caring less about pleasing everyone, you filter out those who don't truly value you. You also create a dynamic where others seek your approval because your time and energy feel like a privilege, not a given. This doesn't mean being aloof or unkind. It means valuing yourself enough to not overextend for the sake of being liked. Professional settings. The art of detachment. In the workplace, caring less can be a game changer, though it requires finesse. This doesn't mean neglecting your responsibilities or acting unprofessionally. Instead, it's about not being overly attached to outcomes, not seeking constant validation from bosses or colleagues, and maintaining an air of quiet confidence. For instance, during a negotiation, the person who seems less desperate for the deal often has the upper hand. If you're willing to walk away, or at least appear to be, you signal that you have options, which forces the other side to sweeten the pot. Similarly, when you don't chase promotions or praise, but instead focus on doing great work and letting it speak for itself, you often earn more respect and opportunities. A classic example is the employee who's always volunteering for extra tasks, staying late, and seeking approval. They might be seen as reliable, but not necessarily powerful. Contrast that with someone who delivers exceptional results, sets clear boundaries, and doesn't seem overly eager to please. The latter is more likely to be viewed as a leader because their detachment suggests they're not defined by the job. They have bigger things going on. Social dynamics, the magnetism of nonchalance. On a broader social level, the less you care about fitting in or being universally liked, the more people gravitate towards you. This is why the cool person at a party isn't the one trying to impress everyone. It's the one who's relaxed, self-assured, and unbothered by others' opinions. Caring less in social settings means not overanalyzing your words, not seeking constant approval, and not bending over backward to be accepted. It's about being comfortable in your own skin, which paradoxically makes others want to be around you. When you don't need the room's validation, the room often gives it to you anyway. Part 3, the tactics, how to apply the principle. 1. Cultivate genuine independence. The foundation of this principle is authentic self-reliance. You can't fake caring less if you're secretly desperate for approval. People sense inauthenticity. So, start by building a life you love, independent of others' validation. Pursue hobbies, set personal goals, and invest in your growth. When your happiness doesn't hinge on someone else's response, your detachment becomes natural, not performative. For example, if you're dating, don't make your partner the center of your universe. Have your own passions, friendships, and ambitions. This not only makes you more attractive, but also protects you emotionally, because your sense of self isn't tied to the relationship's outcome. 2. Master the art of selective engagement. Caring less doesn't mean ignoring people or being rude. It means being selective about where you invest your energy. Respond thoughtfully, but don't always be the first to reach out. Give attention, but don't smother. This creates a rhythm of engagement that keeps others intrigued without feeling manipulated. In practice, this might mean waiting a few hours to reply to a text, not because you're playing games, but because you're genuinely busy living your life. Or it could mean declining an invitation politely, showing that your time is valuable. The key is balance. You're warm and approachable, but not always available. 3. Embrace the power of silence. Silence is a potent tool. When you don't rush to fill every gap in a conversation, when you don't over-explain or justify yourself, you project confidence and mystery. People often obsess over what's unsaid, filling in the blanks with their own projections. For instance, if someone asks why you didn't attend their event, a simple, "I had other plans," delivered with a smile, is far more intriguing than a long-winded excuse. Let them wonder. Their curiosity will amplify your presence in their mind. 4. Be willing to walk away. The ultimate power move is being ready to walk away, not as a bluff, but as a genuine option. Whether it's a relationship, a job, or a deal, knowing you can leave gives you leverage. It also shifts the dynamic. Instead of you chasing, others start to fear losing you. 5. Project abundance, not neediness. An abundance mindset is key. When you act like you have plenty of options, whether in love, work, or social circles, you're less likely to cling to any one person or opportunity. This doesn't mean bragging or being dismissive. It means carrying yourself with the quiet confidence that you're not desperate for any single outcome. For example, in a business context, if you're pitching to investors, don't beg for their funding. Present your idea confidently, highlight its value, and make it clear you have other prospects. This shifts the power dynamic, making them feel like they need to act fast to secure a piece of your vision. Part 4. The risks and pitfalls manipulation versus authenticity. While the principle can be effective, it's easy to slip into manipulation if you're not careful. Using detachment purely to control others without genuine care for their feelings or your own integrity can backfire. People eventually sense when they're being toyed with, and the trust you've built can collapse. To avoid this, stay grounded in authenticity. Care less, not because you're trying to hook someone, but because you genuinely value your own peace and priorities. The goal is to empower yourself, not to exploit others. Emotional disconnect. Another risk is becoming too detached, not just in appearance but in reality. If you're always holding back, you might struggle to form deep, meaningful connections. Relationships, romantic or otherwise, require vulnerability to thrive. The tactic of caring less works best as a tool for setting boundaries and maintaining balance, not as a lifestyle of emotional unavailability. Misreading the context. Not every situation calls for this approach. In some cultures, for instance, directness and warmth are valued over aloofness. In certain professional settings, being too detached can make you seem disengaged or arrogant. Always read the room and adapt your approach accordingly, attracting the wrong people. Ironically, caring less can sometimes attract people who are drawn to the chase, but not to you as a person. These individuals might be thrill seekers or narcissists who see your detachment as a challenge to conquer, only to lose interest once they've won. Be discerning about who you apply this tactic with and watch for signs of unhealthy dynamics. Part 5. Ethical considerations. Is it fair to use power tactics? Some might question whether it's ethical to consciously influence others' behavior. The answer depends on intent and impact. If you're using detachment to deceive, control, or hurt someone, you're on shaky ethical ground. But if you're simply prioritizing your own well-being, setting healthy boundaries, and letting others respond naturally, you're within your rights. The difference lies in whether you're respecting others' autonomy. Ethical use of this principle means being honest, transparent about your intentions, and not exploiting vulnerabilities. It's about empowering yourself, not diminishing others. The ripple effect. Impact on relationships. Consider the long-term effects on your relationships. Constantly employing power tactics can strain connections, creating a dynamic where trust and intimacy are hard to build. If you're always holding back, you might push away those who genuinely care about you. Use this principle sparingly and balance it with moments of connection and vulnerability. Self-reflection. Staying grounded. Finally, regularly reflect on your motives. Are you caring less because you're protecting your peace or because you're seeking power for its own sake? Power can be seductive, and it's easy to lose sight of your values. Regular self-reflection keeps you aligned with your moral compass. Part 6. Case Studies and Historical Examples. Cleopatra, the Art of Allure. Cleopatra, the ancient Egyptian queen, was a master of this principle. She didn't chase power, she drew it to her. When dealing with Roman leaders like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, she projected an aura of confidence, intelligence, and independence. By never appearing desperate for their favor, she held them captivated, securing alliances that strengthened her empire. Her detachment wasn't cold, it was strategic. She was warm, engaging, and charismatic, but always in control of her image. By making herself indispensable yet elusive, she ensured that those in power obsessed over her, bending over to her will without ever needing to beg. Steve Jobs, the power of vision. In the business world, Steve Jobs exemplified this principle. He didn't chase investors or beg for partnerships. He projected a belief that in his vision that was so strong, others were drawn to it. When launching Apple, he acted as if the world needed his products, not the other way around. This confidence made investors, developers, and consumers scramble to be part of his ecosystem. Jobs' detachment wasn't about being unapproachable. It was passionate, but he never seemed to need anyone's approval. This made his approval feel like the ultimate prize, fueling Apple's cult-like following. The fictional Don Draper. While fictional, Don Draper from Mad Men embodies this dynamic. His brooding, enigmatic past and aloof demeanor make him magnetic to those around him. Colleagues, clients, and lovers alike obsess over his approval because he gives it so rarely. Draper's power lies in his ability to remain emotionally distant while still being compelling. A textbook example of caring less to inspire obsession. Part 7. Balancing power and connection. The sweet spot. Confidence with warmth. The most effective use of this principle strikes a balance between confidence and warmth. You don't want to be so detached that you're unlikable, nor so warm that you're taken for granted. The sweet spot is being self-assured yet approachable, independent yet engaged. In practice, this means showing genuine interest in others, but not at the expense of your own priorities. It's about being kind but firm, open but selective. This balance makes you magnetic without being manipulative, powerful without being cold. Building healthy dynamics. Ultimately, the goal isn't to dominate others, but to create relationships where power is mutual respect and power is shared. Use the principle to set boundaries and earn respect, but don't let it become a barrier to connection. Healthy dynamics are built on trust, communication, and mutual value, not games or tactics. Knowing when to let go, sometimes caring less, means letting go of relationships or opportunities that don't serve you. If someone only responds to your detachment but doesn't value your effort, they might not be worth your time. Use this principle to filter out those who don't align with your values and focus on those who appreciate you for who you are. Conclusion: the power within you. The less you care less is a principle that's less about others and more about you. It's about reclaiming your power by reclaiming your focus, shifting it from external validation to eternal strength. When you prioritize your own peace, your own goals, your own growth, you become a force that others can't ignore. Their obsession is just a byproduct of your independence. But with great power comes great responsibility. Use this tactic thoughtfully, ethically, and with self-awareness. Don't let it become a crutch or an excuse to avoid vulnerability. Instead, let it be a tool to navigate the world with confidence, attract the right people, and build a life connections that matter. As you move forward, remember this: the most magnetic people aren't those who chase or control, but those who are simply unafraid to be themselves. Care less about what doesn't matter, and watch how the world responds to what matters most to you. The power is already in you. It's just waiting to be unleashed.